Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Simone here, and today I'm doing the wonderful Lianne from Literary Diversion's original book tag that she tagged me in. This is the build a book tag, which I think is such a wonderful and genius idea. And basically you build a book based on the questions, and each question relates to a different section of the novel, and you make your own novel, and it's great, and I'm so excited about it. So let's get into the questions starting now. Firstly though, Lianne, you're amazing. This is genius. And yes, thank you for tagging me. So question number one, I'm going to read them off the screen, is genre. Recommend a book that reflects your ideal novel's genre and mood. Okay, so what I've picked for this one is Patricia Cornwell's Kay Scarpetta series. I will link up the first one. I think, what is the first one called? Postmortem? Is that number one? I can't remember. I'm going to put it up here anyway. I think I've definitely read the first 3 books in the series in order, because I've started reading them again, but I've read loads of the others just out of order, and I own so many of them. But yes, basically the Kay Scarpetta series is kind of a mystery crime novel. So I love mystery novels. It's one of my favourite genres, but my favourite thing about them is like the crime when authors write about like detectives and trying to figure out crimes and stuff. I do like the kind of like creepy mystery, but that's not the kind of my favourite genre, I guess. My favourite is definitely, I love a detective novel. I know not everyone does. I love like a detective novel, or them trying to like solve a crime, or yeah, it's my favourite. So that would be my favourite genre, and the genre that I would like my novel to be. Question number 2 is main character. If you could pull a main character from any book on your shelves to read another novel about, who would it be? So I had a really good think about this, and I decided in my mystery crime novel that my detective was going to be Elizabeth Bennet from Pride and Prejudice, because I thought it'd just be really interesting. I actually really like Elizabeth Bennet as a character. I think she's very sassy and very kind of like strong, and I think she stands up for what she really wants, so I think she'd actually make a really good detective. And I think that it would be really interesting to see her in like a modern day detective novel. Yeah, I'd be really interested. I think that's a really weird thing to think about, but I would be really interested to watch that. Question number 3, supporting character. Who would be your main character's sidekick? And again, I've tried to kind of like really think, rather than think about who my favourites are, think about who would make a really good novel. So I've gone for Carrie Asher from the novel Zombie Britannica by Thomas Emson. This is a book that I read a couple of years ago now, I think, and I love a zombie novel, and yeah, and Carrie Asher is actually one of them. I think she's the main character in Zombie Britannica, or at least one of them. There's quite a lot of characters, but I think she would make an amazing sidekick. She'd kind of be like Robin from Robert Galbraith's Cormoran Strike series. I feel like she'd be that to Elizabeth Bennet. I think they'd get on really well. They'd really work together. Carrie Asher in Zombie Britannica basically has to find a way across a zombie-filled town to her daughter, who is stuck in a house. So her daughter is, I think, 6, and she gets a phone call from her daughter right at the start to say that the daughter's father, so who the mother is no longer with anymore, Carrie's no longer with, is basically a zombie, and he's downstairs, and the rest of the world is zombies. Not too unrealistic to these days, to be honest, but anyway. But yeah, she is having to essentially find out what's going on, figure out how she gets to her daughter, and I think she'd be a really like good head on her shoulders for what happens to, or what would happen to Elizabeth, because I think sometimes she might go off a little bit and be like, oh, what am I doing? And I think that Carrie would bring her back down to earth, and they'd work really well together as a team, I think. Question number 4, trope. What trope can you not get enough of? Recommend a couple of books you love that have used this trope. So my favourite book trope, which sounds really awful, is the trope of amnesia. I love the fact when you don't know if a character is remembering things right, or a character has amnesia, and then you kind of are trying to figure out what's going on and what happened and that sort of thing. I really like that. So I don't know if, I feel like whatever crime happened in this book that I'm making, maybe one of the characters in the crime is having amnesia and doesn't remember, so Elizabeth and Carrie have to figure out what happened. They're like badass girls, like, we need to figure out what's going on. So 2 books that I'm going to recommend based on this trope would be Remember Me by Sophie Kinsella. I love Sophie Kinsella, and this is a book that basically follows a girl who one day wakes up and she works for this amazing company, like she looks amazing and she has this wonderful husband, and she doesn't remember any of this. Like, when she remembers, she was, you know, none of those things, and but now she's not really liked by her best friends and she can't really remember why this has happened, etc. And I just really liked the book, and it's a bit more of a kind of like softer approach than like a crime novel. So if you want something that's not crime, it's not crime based, that's definitely a good one. If you do want one that's crime based, I would highly recommend Before I Go to Sleep by S.J. Watson. Before I Go to Sleep is one of my favourite crime thriller novels of all time. It basically follows a woman, I can't remember her name, who again wakes up every day and she forgets her life, and every day she has to be reminded of everything that's happened and who she is. She lives with a man who says he's her husband, but she soon starts to think maybe that's not the case, or maybe something is not right there. She doesn't know if she can trust him or not. And honestly, the twist at the end of this was amazing, and yeah, if you like crime and you want that kind of amnesia trope, I would definitely recommend that. Question number 5 is plot twist. Which book has your favourite plot twist? And when I thought of this, one immediately popped into my head because it was the only, well, it wasn't the only, I've definitely done it a couple of times, but the one time, like the very first time where I actually audibly gasped at a plot twist. Like, I was sitting reading it, my sister had come over to my flat. This was like, I don't know, 4 years ago now, where I was living in my flat, and my sister came over, and she was like trying to talk to me, and I was like, wait a minute, I've got like 2 chapters left in my book. I was like, let me finish this chapter, I said, and then I'll be all yours. And then I literally was reading this, and you know when you're like trying to read anyway a bit faster to try and like get on with what you need to do, and I felt like I was reading it quick because I wanted to know what happened as well, and I was just reading, and then I literally just went and my sister was like, what? And I was like, oh my god, stop everything, what is happening? So the plot twist that I'm referring to is in Dark Places by Gillian Flynn. I am not the biggest Gillian Flynn fan, but this book is definitely my favourite of hers. Dark Places is basically about a girl who, when she was much younger, testified against her brother. There was an attack on her house. She testified that it was her brother, and now this is years later, and there is a group of people that have come to her and basically said, we don't think it was your brother, and she's now trying to figure out what is right and if that is the case. And the plot twist, oh my god, honestly, was amazing. So yeah, I really love that book. Question 6 is relationships. What kind of relationship is important in your book? Show us your favourite bookish example of this kind of relationship. So I really thought about this, and one of my favourite relationships to read about is sibling relationships. I really enjoy reading about brothers and sisters, and yeah, I just think it's really lovely, whether that's full brother and sister, whether that's half brother and sister, step brother and sister, like adopted brother and sister, like whether that's officially adopted or kind of like the friendly brother and, you know, that kind of thing. So I love sibling relationships, and one of my favourite books, I wouldn't say this is necessarily my favourite book with sibling relationships, but I really like this one, and that is Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng. This follows a family of 5. It follows the mother and father and 3 children. One of the children's body is found in a lake, and basically they have to, it's kind of a relationships and coming to terms with the fact that one of these children is dead, and having to kind of figure it out. It also talks a lot about the like relationships between each of the siblings, and that is before the death and after, and I just, yeah, it was a really lovely book. It was really, really well written, and I love Celeste Ng's writing anyway, so this is definitely a book that I would recommend. And yeah, I loved it. I absolutely loved it, and I'd love there to be a sibling. I'm trying to think who I would want there to be a sibling relationship with in the book. I feel like the people who the crime is about, maybe there's a sister. Maybe there's like the girl with amnesia and her sister, and maybe there's some relationship stuff there. I don't know. I'm really not thinking this through completely, but that's what I think would probably happen. Or maybe Elizabeth Bennet, maybe it's her relationship with her sisters who are still around even though she's a detective. Maybe maybe there are scenes in the book where she goes back to her family and realises what she's got. Maybe, I don't know, I'm making up as I go along. Question 7, villain. Which villain would you steal for your book? And absolutely, my favourite villain of all time is Count Olaf from the series of Unfortunate Events. I've actually only read the first 2, I think, and I really, really want to read some more, but I love Count Olaf, honestly. I think it's funny, which I would want my book to be. I would want it to be mildly humorous, have some funny elements to it. I would want it to be a little bit slapstick, I guess. Yeah, I just think it would be really, really fun. I just think he's one of those people that you just can't really take him seriously, but he's also quite villainous, like in a genuine way. So you're like, I don't know how to feel about him. So yeah, that's what I would say. Question 8, ending. Which kind of ending do you like the best? All wrapped up, open-ended, or something else? Give us an example of your favourite ending. Okay, I like an ending where everything is wrapped up. I don't want to have questions after I finish reading a book. I hate open-ended books. I don't understand them. I can't, I don't want to have to do your work for you and figure out what happened and, be left thinking, there could be a sequel in 10 years' time. So, an ending that I loved, and I'm not including the very end part of this book, and you'll understand what I mean, is Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. If it ended before the epilogue, like the 12 many years later bit, I don't like that, but you can ignore that, that's fine. I like that ending because I felt like it was like everybody can breathe now, everyone can relax, we all know what's going on, and I felt like I liked that. I don't need your stupid bit at the end that telling me, exactly, no, I don't need that. What I mean by the ending being wrapped up as well, I don't need to know, relationships and stuff and all that stuff. What I need to know is, what happened in the book was meant to happen. And that's all I need. I need the, main plot points, sorted. Yeah, that's what I was saying. So I loved that book. I loved the ending. I kind of pretend the last, 10, 20 pages ain't really a thing. So I loved this video. I love this tag. It's made me much happier, and yeah, I've just enjoyed making it. Especially, I think if you want to feel better and you want to post a video that you just can have a great time with, I think this is a great one. So I'm going to tag 3 of my favourites. I'm going to tag Cozy Reader Kelly, I'm going to tag Cody's Book Corner, and I'm going to tag Krista from Books and Jams. These are 3 of my favourite channels at the moment, so do go over and check them out as well. I tag all you ladies. I hope that you enjoy this, and I'd love to find out what kind of book that you make. And yeah, if you have any changes to it, or you think that my book would be interesting, would you like to read my book? What do you think about it? And yeah, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I shall see you next time for another video. Bye guys!